Hello there, welcome to another Edinburgh Retro PC hardware review. Today we're going to be looking at it's a floppy drive emulator for the Atari 8-bit. Now I know it doesn't sound very exciting, but for any Atari 8-bit lovers out there, it's absolutely fantastic. What this device does is, just as the name says, it actually emulates a floppy drive. Now, if you're anything like me or any of the other guys on our website, you love all your old vintage computers. Now, the biggest problem with old tech is it's not always reliable, especially tapes, discs. I mean, you've got to remember these things, especially the Ataris. They came out in sort of 1981, 1982, so they're pretty old, and you do obviously get problems trying to load games. Hence the reason that some clever people have invented hardware devices like this. The device in question is actually from a chap in Poland called Lotharek. Now I bought that online. It cost me about €80, which converts to about £65, I think it is. But when you consider it's just over the price of a couple of Xbox 360 games, when you think that you're getting every single piece of software ever written for these machines, it's an absolute bargain. The device, as you can see, it actually plugs in. It plugs into where a normal floppy drive would go. It's very sturdy, so there's no movement there at all. The device itself, I'll just zoom in slightly. The device itself is very well made. Just excuse me a second while I try and get a better picture. Right, okay. It's a solid device. I mean, it's a homebrew device, but it's very well made. Absolutely solid. It's actually quite heavy as well. It's all screwed into place. I mean, it's not going to fall to bits unless you're to hit it with a hammer, which I wouldn't recommend. There's various buttons across the front here which do different functions. Now, when I first got this, I thought that you had to just use the buttons to mount a device, mount a disc into the machine, but as I'll show you in a second, you don't have to bother with these buttons. I mean, really, you only use these buttons to set the thing up, and once it's set up, you don't have to touch them again. All the software that runs this thing, plus all your games, go on a standard SD card. I think this is 2 gig. Now that basically holds every piece of software that's ever been written for the machine, plus there's demos, music, etc. So it's brilliant. It's actually also got an LCD screen here, which when I switch the machine on, you may or may not be able to make out. You can see it's kind of lighting up. As is, the quality of the actual device itself is just second to none. I mean, I can't recommend it highly enough. You may or may not be able to make out the writing on this thing, but it's really well made. Have I already said that? I think I have. So anyway, enough about the hardware itself. I say it's solid. It'll not break. It's not going to break if you drop it. Basically, you plug it into where I've got it plugged in. You power the machine on, power the Atari on, and I'll let you see it in action. Still getting used to this camera, so you need to bear with me. Now, when I switch this on, you can see it comes up with a menu along the top here. Turbo, option, start or select to continue. Now, when you first buy the device, you don't actually boot straight into this. This menu system is actually a file which is actually already installed. But what you need to do is you need to go into the sort of setup for the device itself and switch it so that it automatically boots this little file. Then this file, what it actually does is it just boots to the screen that you can see, and all you have to do now is to press start, and it loads up with this screen. Now, as you can see there, you've got letters of the alphabet. Each of these letters is actually a folder, and in the folder are all the games, all the different pieces of software. You can see them down here. Now at the top, which you may be able to see, I'll just pan across up there. You can see it says you've got 1 to 8. Now what that is each of these numbers is actually a floppy drive. So in effect you've got 8 floppy drives. Now what you could do if you wanted to put a multiple discs in, you can do that. To insert a disc, as you can see there at the moment, it says off for all of them, which means there's no disc inserted. To insert a disc, all you need to do is think of a game. Now one of my favourites on 8-bit machines is the Fort Apocalypse. So you can see there F. Now to access the files in that folder, you press this letter I, and you can see there it's come up with various games. Now to find the game you want, all you have to do is press the spacebar, and you can see there it lists all the different games. Now one thing you need to be aware of with this device, it doesn't put the discs into alphabetical order. So for example, if you add whatever file, regardless of the name, when you add it onto the SD card, it will always appear at the very bottom of the list, which is a bit of a pain, but you know, at the end of the day it's no big deal. So let's looking for Fort Apocalypse. You can see all the various boulder dashes which have been written. Moving down. Fort Apocalypse. Now you can see there's actually 2 versions. Now because one thing you have to appreciate with these devices, you know, the Atari machine wasn't written for these things in mind, so sometimes you find that one particular disk image won't run properly. So all you need to do is download another one off the internet, pop it on, and you'll usually find that one should work. Now in the case of Fort Apocalypse, you can see there's 2 different versions, version 1, version 2, ATR, which is actually the sort of disk image. So to load one or to mount it in the drive, you pick the one you want. So I'm going to go for this one here, Fort Apocalypse version 2. You press that letter, which is the letter I. Now if I pan up, you shall see it is now showing you've got Fort Apocalypse in drive 1. Now the only thing you need to do now is to press X and to load it. Now I'll pan back out again to let you see the game loading. Like so. So to load the game, press X, and you can even hear it makes the noise that the original Atari drive made. There we go, quick as anything. I'll even have a shot and show you how fantastic I am at this. Now the thing, I was actually a Commodore 64 kid. Never actually owned an Atari. Now I owned a 64 pretty much from when it came out, so the games that I'm really fond of are all the early US Gold games that came out, like Fort Apocalypse, Blue Max, Drop Zone. Well, Drop Zones actually came out later on, Bruce Lee, things like that. Now what you'll find is the versions on the Atari 8-bit are actually far superior, because at the time when these games were released, if I can just get past these, it's absolutely rock hard, this game. Getting chased by a home in myself. When the Atari 800, when these games were released, the Atari 800 had actually been out for a couple of years, by which time the programmers had got to grips with the hardware. So if you compare this with the Commodore 64 version, this version is a lot smoother, faster, and just generally nicer to play. Now I don't normally have this many problems trying to get past, but as usual. Oh, there you go. When I try and play the thing on camera, I fall to pieces. It's rock hard, as I was saying. Now, one thing I've completely omitted to tell you at the beginning is this device is for the Atari 8-bit series, so it will work on any of the Atari 8-bits. I think it should work on Atari 400, but it will definitely work on the Atari 800, the Atari 800 XL, and also the XE series of 8-bit computers, which was the 130 XE and the one which I've got, which is the 65 XE. They're basically the same as Atari 800. So this device will work in any of these. I'll just get into this little bit and then I'll call it a day. Hooray! Pick the hostage up. There we go. Right, enough of that. Now, as with the original Atari, to play a new game you have to physically switch the machine on and off. Some games, pardon me, if you press the reset switch, it will reboot and you can pick another game, but a lot of games, depending on how the software was written, a lot of the games will just automatically boot back to the game. So if I try and reset this one, we'll see what happens. Right, it did boot to this, but sometimes you find you've got to actually switch on and off again. I think this is going to reload the game. No. And the question is, the best thing to do is just to switch off, leave off for a few seconds, and switch back on. Now, one very clever person has actually, rather than have all these multiple disk images, one clever person has actually come up with a disk image which contains about, I don't know, a couple hundred games. So if I press the space bar, you'll see here it says, you can see here there are 4 disk images, disk 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now each of these is actually, they're about 16 meg in file size, which when you consider the original discs are only about 171k, 16 meg is a considerable size. However, all will be revealed. If I put in disk 1, which is K, you should now again see at the top of the screen that is now in place, and I press X to reload. You'll now see there's multiple directories again, like so. This is actually just one disk that you're looking at. You can use a joystick to move down. So what I'll do is I'll look for drop zone. Now you can see there, that's the letters that show you where it's going to be. So DR drop, that's going to be in there. Press the fire button and you can then scroll down through the games. Drop zone, press the fire button. There you go. How quick was that? I'm actually reliably informed that this actually is about 4 times as quick as the original floppy drive, so there's no waiting about at all. And as you can see, I'm equally as good at this as I am at the other game. One thing I notice, you may notice and think to yourself, is the scrolling is not particularly smooth. I believe that is because when you play some of the old consoles or old 8-bit machines on LCD screens, the refresh rate isn't all it could be. If you played this on a standard CRT TV, the scrolling would be as smooth as anything. So there, basically you have it, guys. This is the Atari S102SD device. There'll be a link appearing at the end of this video to show you where you can buy it. It says Lotharic himself, he's a clever guy. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the cost of this thing, you know, it's worth it tenfold when you consider that you're getting all these games, every piece of hardware every piece of software you could ever imagine for the price, you know, for £60–70. It's an absolute bargain. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it's not the most professional, but this is my first attempt at it, so I hope you enjoy it. and I shall see you at the next video. Thanks so much now guys. Cheers, bye.